And Martin, the future of Hockey Canada and the culture of the game all up for discussion tonight at a key meeting among Hockey Canada's regional branches.
We made some more significant changes today. We will restore the trust in Canadians.
This comes amid the ongoing scrutiny of Hockey Canada's leadership and increasing calls for change.
Are the ones that are going to be taking over the city. We are going to be here for 80 years or more.
We're heading into the final push of municipal elections across the province. We'll meet two young candidates hoping to bring new life to City Council. And
Happy Halloween!
an early Halloween treat for kids of all abilities. You've got to see this Toronto neighborhood. They went all out for a spooky and accessible celebration.
This is CBC Saturday News.
The future of Hockey Canada once again in the spotlight as 13 provincial hockey federations got together. Earlier this week, a former Supreme Court justice released an independent review. It detailed serious problems with how a controversial reserve fund was administered. Hockey Canada used the fund to settle a multi-million-dollar lawsuit alleging a 2018 group sexual assault involving World Junior players. The report found the organization did not have policies and procedures in place to govern the use of its reserve funds and broke the rules by failing to notify its members of large payouts. Hockey Canada's CEO and the entire board resigned a day after that report went public. Angela King is tracking all of that for us tonight. She was at a meeting that's just wrapped up within the last hour.
All 13 provincial and territorial Hockey Canada members were at the meeting today. They unanimously voted to pass the first set of bylaws that are meant to improve the way that the organization selects a new board of directors. Now, the special meeting was scheduled for today to ensure that these changes are in place before an election in December. I want to tell you a little bit about some of these changes. So they include ensuring that all candidate applications are reviewed and vetted by an independent nominating committee, that a third-party firm helps with that vetting process. Another change is that the board of directors that's elected in December only serve a one-year transitional term rather than that standard two-year term, and that board's focus is really looking at addressing urgent issues. Now, all of these changes are based on recommendations made in a report that Hockey Canada commissioned. It looks at the organization's governance structure and the reserve fund that it used to quietly settle sexual assault allegations. Now, the report is long. It's over 100 pages and was authored by a retired Supreme Court justice named Thomas Cromwell, and Hockey Canada has said that it accepts the recommendations in that report. Now, today I spoke with Todd Pye. He's the branch president of Hockey New Brunswick. He said that today's meeting was productive and included tough conversations, but all members embraced the report. Now, I asked him what his message is to members of the public who have lost trust in the organization, and here's his response.
We're listening. We've heard what you had to say. We've made some changes over the last couple of weeks. We made some more significant changes today. We will make the necessary changes to bring more people and diverse culture to the table.
I also spoke with a corporate governance expert today. He said that he's read the entire report. He agrees with it very fully and says that it really needs to be looked at and be quite a focus when selecting a new board of directors.
Diverse boards in all forms, gender, ethnicity, age, geography as well, the justice mentioned, make better decisions. So a well-rounded, expert, all-star board for our national sport, I think is what the justice is after. And I think it falls on the shoulders of the nominating committee.
Hockey Canada says that today's bylaws are just the first wave of changes based on Cromwell's report, and the organization will continue to address systemic issues within the sport. Angelina King, CBC News, Mississauga.
A 28-year-old man is dead after an overnight stabbing in Ajax. It happened in a parking lot outside a bar around 2 this morning. Police say there was some kind of fight between two men.
One of those males had stabbed the other male. That male was taken to a Toronto area trauma center where he has since succumbed to his injuries. Another male subsequently at the same time was struck by a vehicle, and that male's also been taken to a Toronto area trauma center where he's in serious condition.
The driver has been charged. The investigation is ongoing. Police asking witnesses or people with footage to contact them. We are almost a week away now from municipal elections. Advanced polls in Toronto now closed. Data from the city shows voter turnout in those advanced polls was down from the last city election. The city says more than 115,000 people voted, a drop of almost 7%. That's despite the fact that this year's advanced voting period was extended by 3 days, including Thanksgiving long weekend. The next time you can cast a ballot is on Election Day. A reminder, that's Monday, October 24th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. On the ballot in several races are some young candidates. They're hoping to shake up their local city councils. Tyler Cheese joined a few of them on the campaign trail today.
The race is on to determine the next mayor of Toronto, and you only have to be 18 years old to throw your hat in the ring. 29-year-old Jack Yan feels his experience working in the finance industry gives him the tools he needs to be mayor.
We have to read a lot of stuff about everything, about government, about policies, about a variety of industries from energy, industrials, banks.
He says affordable housing is his top priority going into the election.
I think this affordability crisis has led to a lot of other problems like homelessness, and that certainly contributes to crime.
At 22 years old, Kyle Schwartz is also running for mayor of Toronto and feels it's important for young people to be involved.
We are the ones that are going to be taking over this city. We are going to be here for 80 years or more. And it's really important that we get out and vote and have our voices heard, because our needs are the ones that are going to matter in 40, 50, 60 years.
The York University student says there are a number of issues he'd address at City Hall.
Mental health is really something that we need to be investing more in. Police services and how those play into mental health and whether or not certain things are responded to correctly. And education is a huge one.
In Mississauga, 20-year-old Isaiah Bryant jumped at the opportunity to run for city council.
I could do this. If I got enough people together and I put out a thoughtful and coherent vision for the city, I thought, I really could stand the chance of doing this.
Bryant also feels it's important for young people to be involved in politics, even if they feel disconnected from the political system.
Because they feel like their voices aren't really heard or that they don't particularly matter. So for me, if they want to feel represented and be represented, then municipally, that's where I believe it starts.
All three young candidates will learn the results of their campaigns on October 24th. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning now to another big story we've been watching, the Iranian protests are now into their 5th week, all sparked by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in police custody. Here's a look at some internet video appearing to show confrontations yesterday with authorities outside the capital. Other videos show teenagers marching, a shopkeepers' strike, and chants of "Get Lost," targeting Iran's clerical leadership. Closer to home, the Iranian-Canadian community in the GTA continues to show solidarity. Ryan Patrick Jones is at a rally in Toronto.
Shannon, as you can see around me, the rage here is palpable. Protesters angry about what organizers say is a genocide currently being committed by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Human rights groups say more than 200 people have been killed since demonstrations in that country began on September 17th. That's when Mahsa Amini, a young Kurdish woman, died in the custody of the Iranian morality police. Here's what some of those I spoke to had to say about what brought them out here, including a man who has tattooed some of the names of the victims on his arm.
It's the name of some of the first victims, so of course Mahsa, Nika, who was 16 at the time, Hadis, who was 22 at the time, Sarina, who I believe again 16 at the time.
The government forces have attacked kids, elementary school students there. One student, just from how much she's been beaten, was killed by this regime. And I don't know, I would like, if my voice gets heard, any of my Toronto friends to see if they can imagine that happening in Toronto.
Amnesty International said this week the death toll includes 23 children under the age of 18. Earlier, we spoke to Amnesty's lead Iran researcher who says the regime's brutality is meant to break the resolve of protesters.
The Iranian security forces are using all their tools of repression deliberately in order to crush the protests and in order to crush the spirit of resistance among Iran's youthful population.
The Canadian government has announced sanctions against Iranian officials accused of human rights violations. The sanctions would ban thousands from entering the country, but protesters say the next step is enforcement.
Still working on some of the final details in terms of what Trudeau has promised. We want to make sure that he doesn't forget that we are listening to every detail, and the vote of a lot of people in this community for the Liberal Party as a whole will depend on that.
Amnesty International is calling on the UN Human Rights Council to investigate the Iranian government, but the Iranian government is blaming the West for trying to destabilize the country. What is clear is that despite the dangers they face, Iranian protesters are showing no signs of giving up. And those I spoke to today said they'll keep coming out to show their support as long as it's necessary. Shannon?
That's Ryan Patrick Jones reporting for us. Well, switching gears now, more than 20,000 people are expected to lace up for the Toronto Waterfront Marathon, the first in person since 2019, and that means road closures. 32 different streets are either partially or fully closed. For a full list, you can head on over to our website, cbcnews.ca/Toronto. Sophia's here now with our first look at the forecast. People probably happy they're not out running today. It was like cold and wet and not very nice.
And really, really windy.
Yeah.
How about if I tell you today and tomorrow are going to be the best of the next couple days that you're going to get. So we got to enjoy it while we can. And if you were outside, you would also notice all that wind may impact some of the runners as well. 70 kilometers an hour is what we saw ripping through the St. Catharines area. That peak of that fall foliage will have been felled already. With all of this wind, you'll see things looking a lot more gray over the next little while. But those winds will ease into the overnight period. It will make for a nice, calm walk home after hopefully a Leafs win this evening if you are heading out of downtown. And enjoy, as I've said, today and tomorrow while you can, because the coldest air of the season is upon us for Tuesday into Thursday of this upcoming work week. I'll tell you about that more in the long range. Instead, have a look at the little bit of sunshine we'll get to enjoy Sunday and the mid-teens, because coming up is a few days, folks, of lake effect showers and maybe even some snow. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, Sophia.
Always
we'll see you
with the good
shortly.
news.
Maybe the wind will help the runners tomorrow. That's
maybe.
what I'm
Hopefully
thinking.
it's in the right direction.
That's right. We're heading into a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A neighborhood program to support students is back to in-person sessions for the first time since the pandemic. Success Beyond Limits was started to tackle the dropout rate at a local high school. Here's Dale Manukduk from CBC Toronto's Jane and Finch Community Bureau.
14-year-old Amarion Beggs is playing basketball with his friends at Westview Secondary, part of an after-school program he attends Monday to Friday. He says it's a much better use of his time.
If I'm being honest with you, broski, I'll be home playing 2K right now still. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be home gaming, playing 2K, you know, like 2K every day is not good for you.
Beggs is a mentee in Success Beyond Limits, a unique partnership with the Toronto District School Board that gives the organization space inside the school. Students have full-day access to the space for school supplies, snacks, or to just hang out and play games like foosball and ping pong. After the bell, there's homework club and more programming like dance or basketball. SBL was created in 2010 after the community noticed kids were dropping out of school.
There needed to be something done. So community members, parents, stakeholders came together to brainstorm an idea of what can we do to better support students in the Jane and Finch community.
Since then, around 2,500 students have come through the program. The journey begins in summer camp after grade 8 graduation.
I can't do this on my own. Hey.
In grade 8, the students start off their experience at York University. So they're already familiar with the York University campus. So a lot of times the students that go through our program apply and go to York University because they have that experience.
It's that type of intentional programming that has had a profound impact on students like Beggs. The vast majority of students in the program end up attending post-secondary school.
I feel like a college student, you know what I'm saying, fam? Like, I felt like I was in college still, and you know, it was mad nice, you know? I was in there with like nice college chairs and tables, and like, I felt like a real man still.
Jane and Finch has always been our home.
But not everyone was given the opportunity to go to York U. Some entered the program virtually during the pandemic, but are still thriving.
The program here, it reminds you that where you come from doesn't define who you're going to be, and that you can be whatever you want if you just have the right support system and the right mindset.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto Blue Jays superstar was the inspiration behind a new Toronto company. It's hoped to showcase the incredibly rich and diverse food being cooked in home kitchens across the city.
I believe they're going to blow your mind. That's like when you try my curry. What do you think? Good. Yeah.
It tastes just as beautifully as it smells.
Usually she cooks at home, but today she's cooking for us at the headquarters of Cookin', a new company showcasing the talent of Toronto's chefs, cooks, and creators, all started by these two longtime friends.
We were at high school together, entrepreneurial class. We sat next to each other, so that's where we first met and became fast friends from that point on.
Both have since found great success in the startup and tech space, but it was an article last year about a Toronto Blue Jays superstar and his grandmother that sparked a new idea.
Morley was living in New York, and he gave me a call one day. We're talking all the time, and he just read an amazing article in the New York Times talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays and how his grandmother would cook, authentic Dominican meals for not only himself and his teammates, but also opposing teams, and how people love to come to Toronto because they miss that home cooking and that reminded them of the kind of traditional cuisine that they were used to eating.
Fast forward 1 year later, and that idea is now an app. Rather than ordering from a restaurant, customers connect directly with cooks.
What do you say to the people who might be like, oh, how do I know that somebody's kitchen is up to standards?
A few years ago, the idea of getting behind a driver's seat in the car on the 401 going from Toronto to the airport was insane. People would die if a stranger drove them from one place to another. Then a couple years ago, it became acceptable to rent out a room in your home to somebody that was going to be staying there. Today, it's perfectly fine for an accredited food handler, of which every single cook on Cookin' has an Ontario Certified Food Handler Certificate, to be able to prepare a meal for somebody else and for Cookin' to dispatch a driver to pick it up and take it to the person that ordered it.
More than 600 Toronto cooks have applied to join the app. It is currently operating outside of provincial regulations. The founders say they've been working with Ontario's Ministry of Red Tape Reduction in hopes of modifying the legislation.
There's 2 outs. Ball 1 for Tyson.
Oh my gosh, who can forget that? It's been 7 years, though, since that legendary bat flip by Jose Bautista, a moment that went down in Jays history, and it's being remembered this week by a 90-year-old fan.
But I remember it well. He'd have been clapping along with the rest of us.
More important than that moment, though, of course, is the connection she built with her late grandson. Andrew Godward loved his family and the Jays. He died unexpectedly this spring before they could celebrate her 90th birthday at the Rogers Centre together. Her love for him and the Jays lives on. Halloween is here a little early for some kids. The Jane and Weston neighborhood in Toronto brought their candies to the curb to make trick-or-treating accessible for all kids.
Do it in support of all kids, kids with and without disabilities, and we actually expand the mandate so it's parents as well with and without disabilities who get to come and attend, and they trick or treat. That's all it is, and we bring our treats to the street. Every homeowner, 32 homeowners on Queens Drive, treat from the end of their driveways, removing barriers such as stairs and maybe fear that comes from opening a door for certain children. So we just remove all of that and make it a simple and wonderful, inclusive experience for all kids. And we do it early so we can share the message of accessible inclusion with everybody, all the kids, and all the parents across Toronto and anybody who sees this. And hopefully on Halloween night, they actually treat from the end of their driveway and make things accessible.
I'm so glad to learn that this project is expanding across Ontario, across the country. Children with a different ability level, they have equal right to enjoy Halloween.
I am a parent of 4 kids with disabilities myself. They're teens and young adults now, but Holland Bloorview and Treat Accessibly together are trying to show people this is a great demonstration of really minor changes that mean that everyone can be involved. Our kids are already imagining a world without barriers, and this just brings it a little closer at Halloween. With 400,000 kids with disability in Canada, a good number of those may not eat by mouth, or there may be sensory issues, or eating candy may be a problem. So at this event, there are also toys, right? Stickers and straws and that kind of thing, pencils, for those kids for whom candy may not be safe. And I'm just thrilled that this is now a national movement, and I think it'll be a great example of what can happen around the globe when we care to make spaces and events more accessible.
I just love that. You can reach out to them, Treat Accessibly, to get one of those orange signs to put it on your line. As you heard, it's really simple things we can all do to make it fun for everyone.
And certainly a day that there really should be no barriers. So much joy in that video. I will be treating from the end of the driveway this year.
Yeah,
I learned something new there.
Simple.
Yeah, wonderful. And hopefully trick-or-treat weather, which is in a not so many sleep, will be kind of like we're going to see tomorrow, because it's the best of the next few days. Enjoy the mid-teens and the sunshine while you can on Sunday, folks, because what is coming up next will be a few days of really cool fall-like weather, lake effect showers on and off for really the first half of this work week, along with the coolest air that we have seen so far this season. You know where I'm going with this, right, Shannon? Cool air, an upper-level trough. It's going to mean snow for somebody. Our friends and family up in Timmins and Chapleau will have shoveling snow for the first half of this work week, and we could see a little bit into the south as well. North of London, north of Kitchener-Waterloo, Collingwood to Orangeville could see some wintry mixing Tuesday into Wednesday, especially the early morning hours and higher elevation. Everybody else over the next couple days are looking at about 5 to 15 millimeters of rainfall. What about the temperatures, you ask? Mid-teens for Sunday, and then we begin that downfall. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, feeling close to the freezing mark with that wind chill, even cooler up into the north. Not much improvement into Thursday. It's actually, folks, the longest cold snap in mid-October we have had this early and this long since 2009. So at least we made some records there. There is hope at the end of the tunnel, though, Shannon. We are very nice for next weekend. Above seasonal.
We don't want to set those records. Those aren't fun records.
No, hopefully we have a win tonight from the Leafs to make up for it.
There you go.
That's the kind of record we want.
Yes, and we want to say good luck to all the runners tomorrow. Hopefully the wind is with you.
I will send good weather vibes for you all.
Thanks, Sophia. And that's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.